Would you like a free BMW? Or maybe you enjoy watching something get restored back to its former glory. Maybe you want to learn how to fix your own car, or you just want to kick back and enjoy some good, wholesome content. If you answered yes to any of these, then welcome to the Fix and Give series. My name is Alec, and I teach BMW owners how to fix their own cars. And when this one is done, I'm giving it away to one of you for completely free. And I'm going to hand deliver it to you in person. Right now, we're restoring a 2002 BMW E46. It's a 325 Ci convertible, and it was gifted to me by a subscriber named Gerardo. Over the last few months, I've fixed check engine lights, repaired oil leaks, and I replaced the entire cooling system. And in today's episode, we're wrapping up the engine. Up top, we're going to reseal the valve cover and install new spark plugs and ignition coils, and down below we're going to drop the subframe, reseal the oil pan, and replace the engine and transmission mounts. Let's get cracking. Welcome back. Today we're going to start with the valve cover, but before I tear it completely down, I'm going to show you how to diagnose a leaking valve cover on your own BMW. Now, all of the valve covers on BMW's inline 6 sit at an angle and it tilts down towards the exhaust manifold. Common locations where these valve covers leak are around these little gasket half circles here on the front, but primarily it's down here in the back corner. And if you look down there, that's the exhaust manifold for bank 2. That's the exhaust manifold for bank 1. As they leak, that oil spills out down onto the exhaust and it causes this terrible burning oil smell. That oil burns off and gets sucked right into the cabin air filter. Now, an inspection mirror really helps with the diagnosis. You can just trace down the gasket and see if there's any oil starting to drip down. Surprisingly, this valve cover gasket is not leaking, but we're still going to do it because if you win this car, I don't want you to have to go in and do the valve cover right after I gave it to you. I want this thing to be completely cherry. I'm gonna start by pulling this nut for the battery cable. It's a 19 millimeter. And if you just break this nut loose and spin it off, you can flop this cable up and out of the way, and that gives us some more room for the valve cover. Next, I'm gonna start disconnecting these ignition coils. We have to pull the ignition coils and the harness up and out of the way and get it off the top of this valve cover so we can remove it and replace the gasket. Once you lift these tabs up, you can just pull the connectors out. Next, with the 10 millimeter socket, we can pull the hardware. There's 2 on each ignition coil. Now we can pop these coils out. Ooh, that's wet from our pressure washing we did earlier in the week. Now, before we flop this ignition coil harness out of the way, there's one ground wire that we need to remove. It's held on by an 8 millimeter nut and it attaches to one of the valve cover studs. It has a little stud on top. So let's pull that, then we can get this harness up and out. There we go. Now this harness is held to the valve cover with some little plastic clips like right there. So you just take a pocket screwdriver, stick it down in there, and you can lever the harness out of those clips. And then once it's loose, literally flop it up and out of the way, and now we have a nice bare valve cover. Now on the passenger side of this valve cover, the connectors for the oxygen sensors clip into these little brackets that are attached to the valve cover. So I pull them out of their home and I just flop them down here on the side of the valve cover. There's also a little vacuum line that goes to the secondary air valve that goes through these clips as well. So I just detach everything that's connected to this valve cover, and you can see it all runs back here like a loom. So once it's all disconnected, you can sort of just flop it down and out of the way and try to clear this back corner and just sort of push that whole harness down behind the valve cover. And we'll be able to work around it once we actually get this thing out. Also, before we go crazy on disassembling this thing, there's these little ground straps that attach to the studs for the valve cover mounting bolts. And this little strap goes underneath the 10 millimeter bolts that secure the ignition coils in. There's one here at the far right side, and there's one here on the far left side. So before you go tearing everything out, it's always a good idea to remember the positions of those individual cables so they all go back where they're supposed to when everything goes back together. Next, I'm gonna remove this plastic hose that attaches to the corner of the air box. This is a crankcase ventilation hose, and what it does is it takes the crankcase vapors and the air from the valve cover and sends them down to the cyclonic oil separator or the breather. And then after the cyclonic oil separator does its job, that air goes back up into the intake manifold and is injected back into the intake stream to be burned off. So to get the valve cover out, you need to detach this little plastic hose. Now the fun part, we get to start ripping out all the hardware. Everything that holds this valve cover down is 10 millimeters, so you really only need one socket. Now, a good thing to mention. Now, if you look at this nut, we have a head on top, we have a metal washer that is separate from the nut, we have a rubber grommet, and if you look under here, this is actually the stud. This is supposed to stay in the cylinder head, but it pulled out with the nut. That happens sometimes, so keep watching. I'll show you guys how to fix this and how to resecure them back into the cylinder head. This is how they're supposed to come out, and the washer and the gasket should come off as well. You wanna make sure you don't lose any of these washers unless you bought replacements. Now, if you want more room to work on this side, you can technically pull this secondary air pump, but it's not necessary. All right, now all the outside hardware is removed. Before we can start pulling these center studs, there are 2 more little 8mm nuts, and those hold these little grounding straps onto those studs. So let's pull those off too. Throw our 10mm back on, and now we can pull the studs. And one last thing before we start pulling this cover off is I'm gonna go in here, whoops, dropped one of those little grommets. I'm gonna pick all those grommets and washers out from underneath these 4 studs that are in the center. It's really easy to lose these little washers. Like I said, if you didn't buy replacements, you're gonna need all of them to refasten the valve cover. That's it. It's that easy to pull the valve covers on these M54s. Now to get it off, I usually like to break the seal by sticking a screwdriver or a pry bar right here by the Vanos hub. And I just sort of like to lever up in case someone used some silicone, or if this thing's been sitting on the car for over 20 years, sometimes they can be a little stubborn. But these valve covers are some of the easiest ones to do out of all the other BMW models I've worked on. Gasket is just staying stuck to the cylinder head, so you just got to pull it up and pull it out. Now there's 3 pieces of gaskets. There's these little circle sets that go around the spark plug holes, 2 of them, and then this main gasket that goes around the outside. That is juicy. I don't think that was going to last much longer. Before we get too far, let's talk about parts. I got 6 brand new Bremmy ignition coils. I got 6 NGK plugs. I have 2 new engine mounts, 2 new trans mounts, a dipstick O-ring with some spares to hold on to, an oil pan gasket, a power steering hose, 7 quarts of Liqui-Moly 530, a new filter. We have valve cover grommets, valve cover washers. We have hardware for the transmission mounts and the engine mounts, and we have a new gasket for the oil cap and a new valve cover gasket. And all of these parts came from today's sponsor, FCP Euro. Now, restoring BMWs and giving them away to my subscribers for free is a dream come true, but there's no way I'd be able to do this by myself. I reached out to FCP Euro at the beginning of this series and they were all on board. And since then, they have donated thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of parts to this car and to this restoration series. Now, if you've watched the channel for some time, you know my usual talking points as to why you should use FCP Euro for all of your European parts. They have a lifetime replacement guarantee. They have some of the best pricing. They have an amazing catalog. They have customer support. They have technical support. So if you have an issue, you have a hotline you can call. And on top of that, they are the master of European car DIY resources. They have videos out there for everything. I've used a bunch of their videos. They tell you exactly what tools you need, what parts you need, and how to do the job. Now let's talk about the valve cover real quick. If you were to go to a local auto parts store and just get the valve cover gasket, you're gonna be doing the job again because you have to replace these rubber grommets while you're in there, or else the valve cover will never seat right. And on top of that, if you lose one of these little washers, you're going to be in trouble, which is exactly why I use these kits from FCP Euro. It comes with the gasket, it comes with the grommets, it comes with the washers, and it comes with a new gasket to seal around the oil cap. Need I say more? FCP Euro should be your one-stop shop for everything BMW and European. I've been using them for the last few years and they are the only parts resource I use. So I wanna give a big thank you to FCP Euro for believing in me, believing in the channel, believing in this series, and giving your unending support. Go to fcpeuro.com, check out their catalog, browse around, you will not be disappointed. Now let's get back into this valve cover. All right, let's take a look at this top end. All in all, it doesn't look too bad. A little bit of varnish, but if we look here at the cam lobes, looks pretty decent. I think we got some good life left in this engine. There's not too much sludge. The intake side is covered with this little box. Timing chain looks good. I pulled up on it. There's no slack. It's nice and tight. You can see there's little pieces of silicone there. I do that same thing too. I throw a little dab of sealant right on those corners to seal up those little half circles on the valve cover gasket. But all in all, looks pretty dang good. Looks like a 140,000 mile M54. Now here you can see that stud pulled out with the valve cover nut. All the other studs stayed in place. We're gonna be torquing all these down with a torque wrench just to make sure that they are all nice and secure. It's pretty common for the studs to pull with the valve cover nuts, especially if it's never been replaced. And now is the time for my least favorite but most necessary part of the job, getting a clean mating surface. We gotta go through and get all of these little lines from the old gasket off. We got to scrape off all this sealant, get down into these circles, and we got to get this thing looking brand new again. You know what I say, clean mating surface in the garage and in the bedroom. We got the trusty combo, some red Scotch-Brite, a can of brake cleaner, and a decent shop rag. Now you can pull these studs to give yourself an easier time of scrubbing and cleaning, but it increases your chance of things going sideways. You have to make sure you thread all of these in perfectly, torque them back down to spec. And if you were to cross thread one of these, you're gonna be in big trouble because this is the cylinder head. So I'm just gonna take some Scotch-Brite, squirt a little brake cleaner on there, and get to scrubbing. I recommend scrubbing the difficult to reach areas first because then when you run out of patience by the end of the job, you get to do the easy parts and you're not ready to throw wrenches at the wall out of frustration. There's also 2 more little half circles here on the back, and you got to get in there and scrub out the half circles as well. You know, it is way easier to clean this surface with these studs removed, so I've shown you how to do it with the studs still in. Let's pull the studs and I'll end up showing you guys both ways. All right, that should make life a little easier. It always sucks having to scrub around something circular. It is just so frustrating and tedious. I'm gonna take a razor blade to some of this silicone on here. All right, I think we are fully cleaned up. To double check, we're gonna take a nice clean shop rag, squirt it with a little brake cleaner, and just wipe down all of the surfaces. Really what we're looking for is any sort of ridge that we can feel with our finger. There might be some lines from where that gasket used to sit for many years, but if you can't feel anything with your finger, then you should be in good shape. The brake cleaner also helps get any oils off of the surface, so once we put that rubber gasket down, it's gonna have a nice clean surface to bond to. Check it out, it's looking pretty dang good. Now you can see those lines on there, but you can't feel it with the finger, so I know it's okay. Nice clean gasket surface, including those half circles in the back. It's also a good time to look down the spark plug holes to see if there's any engine oil sitting in there. When these valve covers fail in these central gaskets, oil will leak from the cylinder head down into the spark plug, and it can cause misfires and foul out your ignition coil. So if you haven't checked them, you should. Shout out Anaheim Ducks. Next step, I'm gonna tuck this little M54 in for a little nap. I'm gonna go inside, grab some dinner, and then tomorrow morning we're gonna clean up those studs, clean up the valve cover, and put this thing back together. Next day, time to get this valve cover cleaned up. I'm gonna use the new parts washer from last episode. I think if we take this sheet out, this thing will fit in here pretty decent. I'm not really worried about the top. I'm not really worried about the varnish on the inside and all this buildup, although it would be nice to get rid of. What I really wanna focus on is cleaning all this cheese and all this old junk out of the gasket surface here, because there's this old dried up silicone. It's turned all brown. And if there's any oil or anything prohibiting this gasket from sealing in there, we're gonna have leaks. So let's get to scrubbing. This is almost like buy a new valve cover level junk. I'm gonna have to use this little putty knife here, combination with these plastic pick tools so I don't mar anything up too much. Something like this. Like, this stuff's so gnarly. It's super, super strong. It's like expanding foam. It looks like Gorilla Glue, you know? It's not just standard silicone, standard RTV. It's something way different. Yeah, we'll just pressure wash the top and the back and then dry it off. So let's do that next. I soaked the hardware for the valve cover nuts and the studs in some degreaser and water from the parts washer last night, so hopefully they'll clean up a little bit. I want to invest in a little benchtop ultrasonic parts cleaner next. That way I can just throw all my hardware in there, run it for a few minutes and get it all cleaned up. But the valve cover turned out beautiful. It took me like an hour of cleaning, but we got all that old sealant out of all the gasket surfaces, so valve cover's gonna go on smooth. That gasket's gonna stay in place. Now I want to focus on all these studs, and we also need to separate this valve cover nut from this stud because it pulled out of the cylinder head. See if we can break this loose. Since we got new grommets and washers with the kit, I'm just setting all these aside. All right. I got this little Hazit thread cleaner tool, and I'm gonna see if this can just clean up the threads on these studs. I just want a really nice clean surface to go back into the cylinder head. Ideally, I'd like to clean both sides, but should clean a good amount. Is this all necessary? Is this a little overkill? Yes, but do I want this car to be perfect for whoever wins it? Yes. Let me show you how this works. So you adjust these little teeth to capture the threads and take it, thread it in. Nice clean threads. All right, look at that beautiful cylinder head. All the studs are cleaned up except for this one. So let's start threading them back in, and we're gonna torque them down to 10 Newton meters. Then we can start getting this valve cover assembled. Threading all these in by hand so we don't gummy up the threads on the cylinder head or the Vanos hub. Just gonna snug them up hand tight with the ratchet. Okay, all the studs are in. We're gonna bump this 1/4 inch torque wrench up to 10 Newton meters. And just leave that set up for when we do the nuts. Now we're gonna take a brand new shop rag, a little smidge of brake cleaner. Give this thing one last wipe down. Get any oil from my mitts off here. I'm being very slow and methodical with this car because I ain't just doing a customer's job. I'm setting an example for you guys on how to do this job correctly, and I want this car to be perfect for whoever wins it. I mean it. I want this thing to be mint. I think I forgot to tell you guys as well, this is the video where I will be releasing the giveaway form. A lot of you guys have been asking, you say you're gonna give the car away, but how do I enter? Hang on, the form will be available during this video. You guys will finally have a chance to be able to sign up to win this car. All right, that is bitchin', ready to go. All right, let's install this new gasket. We have 2 of these centerpieces, fit in just like this. It is so important to have all of the oil removed from these gasket passages because these center gaskets won't stay in, and you'll go to put the valve cover on and they'll fall off and you'll get frustrated and annoyed. That's why I spent so much time cleaning this thing. Okay, gasket. Now just run our fingers down, make sure this gasket is fully seated. There's these little nubs in there and they like to sandwich into that crack. I just like to make sure it's nice and flat. See, like right here it's raised. Getting that gasket to settle down. Settle into its new home, its new forever home. Sometimes you have to stretch the gasket, pull it to the side a little bit to get all these circular cutouts for the studs. Get all those nice and lined up. Okay, let's set the gasket aside. Now we're gonna work on washers and grommets. All right, my next step is gonna be cleaning up this valve cover hardware on the wire wheel. I want this valve cover to pop and look brand new. If that means I gotta spend 5 minutes on the wire wheel for that, I'm more than happy to do that. Fun fact, this bench grinder is actually a Hobart coffee grinder from, I believe it was the late 1800s, early 1900s. My dad found this thing, and I'll attach a picture of it in the video so you guys can see it, but it used to have 2 hoppers on the sides and it was made for grinding coffee. They lopped it off and then used the studs and turned it into a bench grinder, and this thing is just whisper quiet. You know, you can't buy a bench grinder this nice anymore with such a cool, old, rebuildable, made in USA motor. So shout out to my dad, Rick, for hooking me up with this thing because he loves it and I love it. I love just old classic tools. Like, I'll be able to pass this thing down to my kids and they'll be able to pass it down to their kids, you know? It's really cool. Knew that was gonna happen at least once. How beautifully balanced is this bench grinder though? You go buy a new bench grinder from Harbor Freight for $100, it sounds like a dang weed whacker. This thing is older than every single person watching this video. This thing is older than my grandparents. You know how cool it is to have a little piece of history like that? All right, what I like to do next is I like to pre-assemble all of these. So take all my grommets, all my washers. I usually clean up the old washers on the wire wheel, but I got new ones this time. Now let's take a look at this gasket real quick and show you as to why you don't want to reuse these. Look at the thickness differential on that. This thing's all sandwiched down. It's got a big indent from there where that washer sat. It's so much thicker, you know, so you don't have to drop that nut down onto that stud as far. And eventually they will bottom out, you know, if these are super worn out. And so you just don't get a good seal. So I always want to refresh these grommets. And this is kind of a fun part. You get to go washer, grommet, set it aside. Little assembly line. Just feels good to have all the hardware dialed in before you start. I enjoy the methodical process of it. Okay, almost there guys, almost. Before I put the valve cover on, what I like to do is I like to take L-Ring Curel T2 gasket maker. This is my favorite stuff for oil pans, valve covers, things like that. I put a dollop on the corners of these semicircles. These go cover the cams, but there's these little semicircle gasket pieces. So I put a little dollop there. Put a little dollop there. 8 dollops, because there's 2 semicircles on both sides of the gasket. And there's 2 more spots that I pre-apply this stuff as well. This Vanos hub attaches to the front of the cylinder head, and it has this seam right there and right there. So what I do is I take Curel T and I lay down a little bead right along that seam. They can leak from there, so this is the only type of sealant that I use on the job. And this isn't an RTV. You could use an RTV, just please don't smother the cylinder head with RTV, guys. You've seen through my other videos how difficult in how much time it takes to get it all removed, and it's not necessary. That's why I like this Cure T stuff, because it doesn't set up and turn super rubbery like regular silicone. It stays soft, it gets tacky, and it does a good job. Studs are torqued to spec. Our valve cover gasket is in place. Our Cure T is in. Let's drop this cover down. The main thing I check is, are all these gaskets around the spark plug ports in place? It's easy for them to catch on the valve train, or they fall out while you're bringing the gasket down. So you should be able to swipe your finger in a circular motion around these spark plug tubes. Make sure that all those are in place. Nice. Everything's looking nice and lined up on my studs. My O2 wires and my secondary air line isn't pinched under the valve cover. I'm gonna confirm that real quick. Just make sure that's free floating back there, which it is. Also gonna check these O2 wires, make sure that's not under the valve cover. All those look free and clear. Just give a sweep down there. Now I'm feeling for those semicircles, making sure those didn't fold over. All those feel good and in place. The fronts look good. We got Cure T pushing out of those spots. Everything's looking really nice. Okay, now we have the ones with the studs. Get those started in the center. Our nuts with studs go in the middle. Now, if you go with cheap or aftermarket grommets on these valve cover nuts, they're too thick. I actually had a dude DM me a little while ago and asking questions, and I was like, guy, you gotta go to FCP Euro and buy OE. Gotta buy OE or OE equivalent. They gotta be of decent quality, or else you're just gonna have a difficult time and your valve cover's gonna leak again. So he had to return his parts. Now I'm just gonna start walking these nuts down with the 1/4" ratchet. I'm not gonna go tight. I'm just gonna start inside, work my way out. That way I'm not cranking on it for 5 minutes each nut with the torque wrench. Okay, now I'm just gonna do an X pattern, just sort of, and then do this front end last. With anything, oil pans, valve covers, oil filter housings, it's always good to go equal and opposite and do a star pattern. All right, this hardware is pretty bottomed out. All right, time to torque things to spec. Start with the inside. All right, now I'm gonna torque everything twice, because sometimes when these grommets push down, other ones can become loose. All right, nice. Pop that crankcase hose back in. Sick, back on. And it is so clean, it looks really good. All right, let's pull these spark plugs out before we put the ignition coils in. Get them swapped. Yeah, a little bit of water in that one from the pressure washing video. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. I did an engine clean and degrease service before I'm gonna do the oil pan this video. And it looks like we got a little water down into cylinder number 6. But like I told you guys in that video, I've done hundreds of engine clean and degreases. I only had an issue once, and it was on an N55, and water got down there and caused the ignition coil to swell up. Other than that, I've never really had any issues with pressure washing. So don't be scared. Now these spark plugs are still pretty decent. They're the BKR6 EQUPs, which are the NGKs that I like to use. But since we're doing plugs and coils, we might as just do it all and refresh this thing completely. We got some brand new BKR6 EQUP NGK lasers. I'm a big fan of NGK spark plugs. Always have been. I feel like it usually says the torque spec on here. Yeah, it just says to go tight, and then 1/16. I'm just gonna do 25 Newton meters because that's what I normally do. I just get them snug. This engine doesn't have an issue with backing out spark plugs. Although I've been working on that Toyota 2UZ FE. That thing loves to back the spark plugs out. I've seen it talked about online too. It's just crazy. I snugged up the spark plugs in that truck. Next time I touched it, all the spark plugs were loose. Boggles my mind. Come on, snap-on 3/8 torque wrench. Work for me. I'm just doing 22. All right, ignition coil time. Now these are BMWs, made in Germany. I believe they are OE. Some people like to grease the boots. I'm gonna leave them dry. I usually put them in dry. Just like to take them down, get it lined up on the plug, push down a little bit. There's different ignition coil styles for different years of the M54, but everything from FCP Euro is good. Okay, and before we put the hardware in for these ignition coils, we have to put our little ground straps back on. Here they are right here, and there's a flat side with a 90-degree bend, almost a 90, and those go on the valve cover studs. This flat eyelet goes on to the ignition coil bolt. So I'm gonna show you the orientation of these. If you look inside the valve cover here, you see that notch? That's where the back end of this eyelet goes. It goes in there like that. Same story for here, except the notch the notches on the bottom on the back one. So drop those on, then we use our little 8mm head nuts, secure those cables onto the studs. This is where magnetic 8mm and 10mm sockets are really handy. And then for those ground straps, you just run the 10mm head bolt through the ground strap and secure it into the ignition coil. That's it, easy peasy, baby. It's funny, I think I'm better at threading in bolts with my non-dominant hand. I'm lefty, if you haven't noticed. And I feel like I have an easier time threading bolts in with my right hand. You guys like that too? Okay, now let's get this hard line for the secondary air valve connected back into those clips and rerouted. And then let's put these oxygen sensors back home. And that's what the oxygen sensor routing should look like. We should have our secondary air little line back there, put it into these little clips, and then that comes down on here and then runs through this bracket. The wires go underneath the connectors. This connector goes there, this connector goes there. Then we have our vacuum line and our hard line for secondary air that runs through and underneath those. Now we can take our harness for the ignition coils, bring this back over, start plugging these in. Okay, all those connectors are on. Now we can drop our harness back down into the clips. Okay, now we take our little ground wire, drop that onto that stud and secure that down with the 8mm. Boom! Last piece of the puzzle is gonna be our battery wire. Bring that back over, drop it back in its clip, pull our nut, put that back on the stud, and snug it back down with a 19mm. Boy, what is all this racket out here? These chickens are beating each other up. What? You excited? You excited? I know, these chickens are making so much racket. This poor little Silky's getting beat up. I got another chicken in there that's getting beat up too. Where's Curry? She's an absolute nutcase right now. There she is. There she is. I'm sorry, girl. You can see she's getting her feathers picked off of her back and all the birds are just beating up on her. It happens. Hey, don't even think about it. Don't beat up on her. Stop it. Oh, breaks my heart, but there's nothing I can do about it. Don't have a rooster to lay down the law. Hey, you made it up there. Good job, little Silky. Chickens have a pecking order, right? And throughout all my couple years of having birds, there's definitely usually a weak link in the group, and all of them usually beat up on them. It was Curry before. At one point, it was my other white chicken, Patty. But yeah, I integrated my friend Tyler and Ashley's 8 chickens with my 7, and it mixed up the whole pecking order. They've been together for like a week now, but they're still beating up on each other. And, you know, I can go in there and try to break it up, but there's really nothing I can do, you know? They're just beating up on Curry. I hope she doesn't die, but I don't think she will. All right, for the next step, we're gonna fire this car up. Shout out to one of my subscribers named Andy Crozier. He's been a long-time viewer. He sent me a little care package, and in that care package is some liquid moly engine flush. So now that the valve cover, spark plugs, ignition coils are done, we're gonna add this to the tank, flush it through, get it nice and hot, and follow the instructions. He also sent me some .4, some old hardware that he had laying around, and he hit a junkyard and got a bunch of window switches for me because we do have a busted window switch in this car. So shout out Andy, really appreciate it, dude. Directions for this engine flush. 500 milliliters, this is 500 mil, so 1 bottle's good for a gallon of oil. Add engine flush to engine oil at operating temperature before changing the oil. After adding the product, allow the engine to idle for 10 to 15 minutes depending on the degree of contamination, then change the oil and the filter. Okay, so let's get it up to operating temp, and then we'll add it, and then we'll let it idle for 10 to 15. So far so good, sounds good. All right, we gotta get this thing up to temp. All right, we're at operating temperature. A good bit of vacuum in there. I noticed that the O2 pilot mod I did last video creates excess crankcase vacuum, so we'll have to monitor oil consumption. I haven't been able to drive this car enough to actually monitor it. Boy, that is thin. I'm curious to see if that real light amber honey colored oil gets any darker from running this stuff. We're gonna let it run for 15 minutes. All right, hey Siri, start a timer for 15 minutes. Well, that runs and does its thing for 15 minutes. I got my new parts organizer I got a couple weeks ago from Harbor Freight. I'm working on getting all my hardware stashes sorted into the correct sizes, getting a little organized with all my leftover stuff so I don't just have bags of nuts and bolts and washers and clips all floating around. I'm gonna get it all dialed in and bitching. All right, 15 minutos is up. Let's kill it. Yeah, it definitely creates extra crankcase vacuum with the O2 pilot mod. We're gonna dump the oil. I think I'll start on the oil pan gasket tonight. I'm not gonna finish it. It's already 6 p.m., but. This car looks so nice, guys. This oil filter housing is just so clean. Valve cover's clean. Just wait till you see the undercarriage after the pressure wash I did. It's gonna be so nice to work on a clean car. All right, let's put this thing up. Check all the locks. All right. This oil is going to be smoking hot. So that means it's gonna squirt from here to like way out here. So I gotta be tactical with this drain pole. Boy, this oil pan doesn't even look like it's leaking. That's amazing. I think I forgot an oil level sensor O-ring. Oh no, what should I do about that? Maybe I can find one up the street. No gloves, this is bold. Don't splatter so much, come on. Stop splattering. It's like freaking Rainforest Cafe. That's like water. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Boy, it looks clean though. It's only got like 20 miles on it. It's some O'Reilly oil though, so it's all good. We're gonna put some Gucci liquid moly in there. Also guys, I just ordered a new lift yesterday. I got a bend pack lift coming with 48 inches of height. Finally made the investment. I cannot wait to show you guys, and I cannot wait to not have to do oil pan gaskets on my back anymore, because I'm over it. I'm gonna be faster. You're gonna get better camera angles, better lighting. I'm not gonna be as grumpy. While the oil's still draining out of the pan down below, I'm gonna start prepping things up top for the oil pan gasket. I think let's pull the fan and the shroud. And then next thing we're gonna do is go down here and hit that nut right there. That's the top nut for the engine mount to engine mount bracket. And then we're gonna do the same thing on this side, down through this hole over here, grab driver's side. I bought a new fan clutch tool, a 32 and a 36, but honestly, I don't like it as much as my Blue Point 32. It also comes with this little guy, which is like a water pump hold down tool. These go over the bolts on the water pump so you can hold it still while you break the wrench loose. I still prefer the hammer method. Trying to remember if I have to drop the power steering pump for this one. Let's go see. Yeah, based off how tight it is in that corner right there, I think we'll have to drop the power steering pump. But look how clean it is under here after that engine clean I did the other video. It's gonna be so nice to work on this oil pan while it's nice and clean. All right, we gotta remove the belt off the hydraulic tensioner from last video. Brand new belt, brand new tensioners, so nice. This radiator is smoking hot. And all we have to do is just fold this belt out of the side because we're gonna be just dropping the power steering pump and that's it. This radiator, this engine is so hot from that engine flush. Cook my arms on this radiator. One more bolt under the alternator, but I think we can get that one from the bottom. I think it'll be easier to get from the bottom. I see it, right above the suction hose. Now this power steering pump should be loosey-goosey. There we go. I'll be out of the way for the oil pan. While the rest of this oil drains out, I'm gonna continue letting this engine cool off. I'm gonna find some dinner and I'm gonna charge my camera. I'll probably come back out tonight, start work on dropping the subframe and getting access to the oil pan, if not tomorrow morning. So I'll see you then. All right, let's get back to work on this oil pan. Where I left off, I just dropped the water pump, need to pull the hardware for the engine mounts, then we'll get our engine support bar up, dump the subframe. Let's do engine mounts next. Let's start with the long dong extension. We need to get access down to the driver's side engine mount nut, 16 millimeter. Same thing for passenger. All right, those are off. Before I throw the engine support bar on, I'm gonna try to get down here to this little 13 millimeter head bolt that secures the dipstick tube onto the engine mount bracket. Break that loose, sneak down here. Now the dipstick tube is nice and loose. It's just one less thing we have to do on bottom. All right, so I've pulled the hardware for the dipstick tube that goes to the engine mount bracket, so that's nice and loose. Now we'll throw the engine support bar on. Now the subframe is what holds the engine up from underneath. So by us putting this engine support bar up top, we're suspending the engine from the top. That way we can drop the cradle, drop the subframe that holds the engine up. So by installing this, we're basically deleting our engine mounts and the use of them. Okay, we're secured on the fender rails. Looks nice and vertical. Anytime I have one of these engine support bars installed, I always use an engine hood lock support. This basically locks out these gas struts, so if they were to fail for any reason, the hood doesn't come down on this big stud. You'll give yourself a huge pimple dent on the underside of your hood. All right, so now that this is on, I'm just gonna give it a couple cranks and get it nice and taut. Sometimes I do lift the engine up a little bit because Engine mounts, as they get old, they sag. So this is just basically taking that sag out of it. You don't need to go high. Just make sure it's suspended. Look for a tiny little bit of lift. And now we go down bottom and start doing all that work. Oh, look at that beautiful undercarriage, baby. Next, let's pull the sway bar. 4 13mm nuts that mount it to the unibody. Okay, that's down. Okay, next we'll use a 16mm socket with a 17mm wrench and disconnect the sway bar from the sway bar links. Nope, we need more powers. It'd also be nice to get this oil pan out of the way. Now, I don't have the oil level sensor gasket for this car, so I'm going to provide it to the winner. And when they do an oil change in the future, I'm gonna have them replace it. Task them with a job. Okay, let's get this. This is gonna be the last oil pan I ever do on my back on this lift. Boy, it is so clean under here. I just love it. Oh, I'm so happy I degreased this before I'm doing the pan. Oh, it's so much better. Okay guys, what's next? High pressure power steering hose bracket and steering column. Bro, what is all this chicken racket out here, dude? Little Silky's getting beat up now too? I literally just had to segregate 2 chickens this morning. Curry is getting her ass kicked. She's missing a bunch of feathers. This poor little Silky back here, she's got the feathers picked off the back of her head and is bleeding. So I got her segregated in my old dog kennels. I'm trying to monitor them and keep the peace. And this little Silky's getting neurotic too. What are you doing, girl? It has been an experience trying to integrate these damn chickens. Holy cow, they are brutal to each other. I guess humans are too, but man, pecking order is real, very real. Next, we're gonna pull this bracket, little 10mm bolt. That way when we drop the subframe, this hose can spread and it won't prevent our subframe from dropping and hanging up on that high pressure hose. Now, steering column. See that E-Torx right there? That's where the steering column joins into the rack. We're gonna pull that bolt out, separate the steering column from the rack and pinion. I'm gonna pull the front wheels and tires too, give myself a little bit more room and sunlight. Well, shoot, I guess I forgot to press record. What I did was I pulled the E10 out of the steering column to the rack and pinion. There's a little E10 up there that joins those. Now we can separate the steering shaft from the rack. And then I also pulled the 2 16mm bolts that hold the control arm bushings up to the unibody here. So both these control arm bushings are loose. The bolt is out for the steering column and we're almost ready to drop the subframe. We got one more thing. Over here, we have our suspension height sensor and we need to get up here and disconnect it because if we don't, there's not going to be enough slack on this wire and we're going to break it. Might need some needle nose. Yeah, I'm going to need some needle nose to get this one out. Okay, time to drop the subframe. There's 4 subframe bolts that hold this thing up. They both attach here on the sides of the subframe up into the unibody. It's an 18mm head. You can put a floor jack underneath this to help support it and control it as it comes down. I'm not gonna do that today. I'm just gonna drop it. I don't think it's too heavy. Let me get you guys some good light. Let's drop this subframe. Let's see if I crush myself with this subframe or not. I'm stronger than a subframe. Oh, the steering columns, I didn't disconnect it. Okay, it's loose enough up there. There we go. This power steering hose is a little tight. It was in its bracket. The bracket now released. Now we got a nice droopy subframe here. Power steering hoses feel loose. Power steering pump is loose. So here you can see we got lots of good access. Engine mount, mounting points for the subframe, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Passenger side engine mount, rack and pinion attached to the subframe. High pressure power steering hose. Got really nice access to the oil pan now. This is the attachment point that the steering column goes into the rack. And back there is our little steering column, steering shaft, engine mount bracket. That's where we pulled the nuts off from the top. So we're good to go. Next step is gonna be disconnecting the transmission lines from the side of the oil pan and then we can start pulling hardware. So this one's a little different. It looks like we got a 13mm bolt that mounts this bracket up to the side of the oil pan. I'm gonna pull this 13 instead. I think it's a little different because it's a convertible. But we don't want the trans lines for the automatic trans cooler to be attached to the oil pan to get it out, so we gotta pull it. Usually it's 2 bolts, but it's only held down with this one. All right, that's nice and loose. What are you barking at, Sage? Let's pull the connector for the oil level sensor. And let's push this oil dipstick tube up, get that released from the pan. Our trans lines are good enough. There's no bracketry down here for the O2 sensor connectors, so we're in good shape there. We got 3 E10s on the back of the bell housing here. Mobility down here is real tight. Hopefully they're within frame. Let's try to rip these out real quick. Got it. All right, now we just have all the other 10mm head bolts and oil pans coming out. All right, for this next part, I gotta pull all the bolts out of the oil pan. We got a lot of them. God, I hate this. I'm not really a fan of oil pans. Need to remember there's a bolt on top of the subframe. Yep, there's the last bolt. Let's not spill oil on my chest like I did last time. All right, so now we need to drop the front end down, get it from out underneath these trans lines. Hey, oh, the trans cooler's leaking a touch of coolant because I'm putting stress on it. I need to put O-rings on there. Don't leak coolant on me, come on. Oh, the dipstick tube is hung up a little bit, so I gotta push that up out of the way. There we go. All right, we got it. Now I gotta take a thumbnail photo. It's one of the other details that you guys don't usually think about as a viewer, but camera angles, lighting, thumbnail, title, description, all that stuff. It's all a factor. Whew, oil pan's out. That's a win. Okay, I took measurements and the oil pan should be short enough to fit inside my parts washer. Let's see if she will fit. Before I do that though, I gotta pour out some of this residual oil. I'm not seeing any metal chunkaroonies in here, so that's a good sign. Okay, now what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna leave the oil level sensor in it. The water might damage it, yes, but let's see. All right, I'm gonna take this out. Oh yeah, we got some schmegma building up on that plate. To lay down some towels to catch that. It's gonna affect my ability to fill this thing with degreaser, but I think we should try to save the oil level sensor. I think if it soaks in water, it's gonna go bad. We're just gonna have to reuse the old gasket. I forgot to order a new one. Like I said, one of you guys is gonna win this car. I'm gonna have you replace the oil level sensor on your next oil service. Okay, now that that's out, let's set the hardware off to the side. We're gonna try to submerge this thing. I gotta go soon. I got a birthday party I gotta go to. I'm part of the Big Brother, Big Sister program here in my area, and I have a little named Cade, and it's his birthday today. And his birthday is at a local bowling alley, so I gotta go get him a gift and I gotta show up for him. Now I'm gonna let this thing soak, and then tonight I'm gonna flip it over, let the other side soak, and then tomorrow we'll pressure wash this thing, scrub it down, and we'll get all this carbon buildup off the inside of the pan as well as the outside and get this thing looking super bitchin'. But I'm really happy this fits because I bet this degreaser is gonna cut through this stuff really well. And for safe measure, let's just put a touch more in there just to get it real strong. And we'll let this thing marinate and flip it and then clean it tomorrow. All right, this sucker's been marinating for like 48 hours over the weekend. I think this degreaser did a really good job. Let's get this thing out of here, get it outside, pressure wash it off, see if there's any other cleaning we have to do, but I think we're gonna be in really good shape. What we'll do is put this back in here like that, and then set this up like that. I wanna get a lot of this oil and gunk off so it doesn't make its way outside when I'm pressure washing. That kind of works. Or you can sacrifice some brake cleaner. No, I don't want to waste all my clean. All right, let's just, ooh, that dipstick O-ring is still in there. You gotta get that sucker out. All right, let's go prep up the pressure washer. It's starting to rain, so we gotta get this done quick time. This shop is currently a big fat mess, so I gotta get this cleaned up real quick, then we'll start prepping the oil pan. All right, so we got our pan. It's still got a good amount of junk down here in the bottom, but I'm gonna wipe that out with a rag, spray it out with some brake cleaner before we install. All this stuff is just stained, so we're gonna let that ride. I got a die grinder here with an old blue Scotch-Brite disc. I would recommend a blue, which is a fine, or a red, which is medium. But if you're not familiar or comfortable with a pneumatic die grinder like this, just use a piece of red Scotch-Brite and some brake cleaner to clean up this gasket surface like this. I've done this job a lot of times and I've used this tool a lot, so I feel like I have pretty good control with it. But if you were to go too heavy in one spot, you can definitely gouge and take out too much material. I'm just trying to wipe out all this sludge. It's coming out pretty good though. Just giving it a quick little spit shine with a shop rag. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna be an improvement of what it was. That's all we're aiming for here. If you chase perfection in the automotive industry, you're gonna drive yourself crazy. As soon as you get your paint job perfect, you're gonna get a little rock chip, you know? As soon as you get things polished up and looking nice, they're gonna get dirty. That's just the way it is. So you can't chase perfection, having every single little aspect of your car be perfect, because when you drive it, it's gonna get messed up. So as long as it's good, but you can drive yourself mad if you're chasing perfection. That's pretty clean. Yeah, it's looking pretty dang good. Okay. All right, next we gotta clean this little dude, because this is where the dipstick tube O-ring seals down. Now, like when I was cleaning it, that dipstick tube O-ring was still in there. So that means that that O-ring was preventing us from cleaning the surface from which the O-ring seals to. So I'm gonna take a little plastic drill like this, just squirt a little brake cleaner in there and polish it out. I think brass is gonna be a little better than... It's little details like this that you want to stay on top of, you know? You don't clean this out, put everything back together. You don't want to have to reseal the dipstick tube O-ring when you're done. You want to do this job once. See that? Nice and clean. Yeah. Now on the top side of this, I don't think I'm going to scrub it at all. It looks pretty dang good. It looks pretty dang OE. So I think we're just gonna let it ride. All this is just staining on there. And we still got a lot of cleaning on the block to do. So let's let this thing sit on the bench and let's go down below and start working on cleaning the block surface. All right, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is my least favorite part of working on cars. First thing I want to do, check this little oil pump nut and chain. Chain's got a little slack, but the nut is not loose. Let's peel this gasket off. Forgot that was still on there. As I was saying, this is my least favorite part of the job, but it is the most important, and that is cleaning this gasket surface of any high spots, any material, scrubbing it down really good. That way we have a nice clean sealing surface for our oil pan to mate up to. If you cut corners at this part, you're gonna be doing it again. I guarantee you that. It's uncomfortable and it sucks, but you gotta do it. So yeah, what we gotta do is wipe down this entire gasket surface, and then we're gonna hit it with Scotch-Brite and some brake cleaner. I like to do the top first because it sucks the most, and then the bottom edge is a little easier and you can finish with that, treat yourself with the nicer part. All right, safety glasses is a good idea too. And then it's always nice, stick your finger in the oil pump pickup, just make sure there's no junk in there, timing chain pieces. Where's my brake cleaner? Oh, it's so far away. All right, we're just gonna scrub without for now. Red Scotch-Brite, my friends. It's the ultimate tool. Buy yourself a big roll, I'll put some in the description. Now we're not looking for absolute perfection, although that is nice. You just want to drag your finger along the gasket surface, make sure there's no high spots from the old gasket. And I like to use Scotch-Brite by hand because if you were to gouge the oil pan, you can replace the oil pan. If you gouge the block, I mean, you can replace the block, but you don't want to. So throw on some tunes, kick back, and get to scrubbing. I'll tell you what, AI will never be able to prep an engine block. They're not taking that job. Now I'm taking a shop rag and some brake cleaner. I'm wiping down the gasket surface so I can start to inspect it, feel it with my finger. Happy birthday, Mama. Happy birthday. Mom's in Portugal for her birthday. We're FaceTiming. Okay, bye. Okay, players, while I was FaceTiming my mom in Portugal for her happy birthday, I scrubbed up this gasket surface here that the oil level sensor O-ring seals against. So, hit this with a little clean. All right, now we're gonna flip her on over. One final cleaning with a piece of fresh Scotch-Brite. For the final, I like to go horizontal with it because I feel like if there are tiny little micro scratches in there from the Scotch-Brite, it'll trap the oil, whereas if I were to scrub this way, it would allow the oil to flow through. I'm also gonna use Curel T on both the block and the oil pan on this gasket because there are some little imperfections. And why not? I normally don't do both surfaces, but today I'm going to. I don't think it can hurt. I need to clean this hardware too. Before I go too far on the pan, I gotta clean this up. Here's what we're gonna do. Little day off spit shine here. Next investment, little ultrasonic parts cleaner to throw all this stuff in. I think we'll clean up the threads on the wire wheel. Actually, we're just gonna hit this little number here. I'm half tempted to put some sealant on the hardware on this one because I feel like so often these gaskets leak from the bolts. All right, I'm happy with that. Got a lot of junk out of there. Now we do the final cleaning on the pan. And I clean my gloves on the fingers I'll be applicating with. I just like to get a nice even smear. Some people like to go dry, some people like to use sealant. Whatever flavor you want, this is the flavor that I like. Not everybody likes peaches, but I do. Everybody's got different methods. 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Nice thing about this Cure T is it's tacky and it doesn't really set up. It'll stay soft and tacky for a long time. So it's real good at keeping gaskets in place. All right, that's good enough for now. Dipstick tube O-ring, we gotta go back down underneath. Before the pan goes up, take a rag with a little brake cleaner, wipe off this dipstick tube. Bunch of grease and grime that gets on there. Okay, then a little silicone juice on the O-ring. Throw that O-ring up there to the stopping point. There we go. Now I gotta go back underneath with another brand new rag. And we gotta wipe down this gasket surface one more time. Make sure it's bitchin' and clean, no oils. Okay, now I'm gonna take some Cure T, put a nice layer on this block. There's some parts right back here where the block seals to, I think, like the rear main, so I like to go a little heavier there. But really the gasket surface mates on the inside of these bolt holes, right? So you don't have to smear the entire surface. You just want to get that inside edge of the block. Now, like I said, I don't always do the block surface, but this time I am. Sometimes it's good to experiment. I don't want this thing to leak for the winter. Nice thing is if any of this stuff squeezes out into the inside of the block, it's not gonna dry up like silicone and get into the oil pump or the strainer. Okay, let's get this cursed pan installed. I think this will be the last oil pan I ever do on my back. Gotta get it over the oil pump sprocket, but these trans lines get in the way. Now before you go running up these 10mm oil pan bolts, you gotta put in these E-Torx bolts in the back because it sucks the pan towards the bell housing and it needs to be fully sandwiched back to the bell housing before you can run all the other bolts in. I really want to get this bottom edge sealed first. I'm not torquing it down, but I'm just trying to get a little bit of tension on it to try to smush that sealant out a little bit. Just throwing in a couple bolts around the perimeter. Then I'll get them all fitted and we'll go through the torque sequence. But what's really important is you get a little bit of snugness on these back E-Torx bolts to suck everything back. All the 10mm bolts will line up a lot better once you do that. Pretty important. Even putting a little turn on these long ones, these 10mm head bolts here at the bell housing, because you know it's just pulling the pan up to a good installation position, if that makes sense. Okay, let's grab a tool to make this faster. I forget what the book time is on this job. I think it's like 6 hours. It's not an easy job. Okay, all the bolts are in. Oh, let's reach up, pop this dipstick tube down. There we go. It needs to pop into place. That bracket needs to line up on the engine mount, which we're lined up. I can feel the threads. All right, now we got to torque these E10s and then we got to do torque spec on the oil pan gasket. Now it's 10 Newton meters for the 8.8 bolts and then 12 for the other grades. I'm just going to do 10 on everything. I'm actually going to just snug these E-Torx by hand. I like to do these first. And I'm just going to do a zigzag pattern. I'm just gonna torque the bottom seam and then go up and do the top and then just equal and opposite star pattern. I'm just gonna double check a few down here. All right, we're good. We are good. The oil pan is back up. Oh, it's not always a fun job. Why in the world did I shower before coming out to work today? Time to knock out some engine mounts, guys. 16mm nut on the bottom of the subframe here. Nice thing is this kit comes with new nuts for the engine mounts too. Contains engine mounts and trans mounts. If you see here, there's this little nipple in front of the stud. So as we take that out, we put the new one in, drop it into its home, and then that nipple will drop down into its home like that. Good and tight. Time for the other side. Now on this one, there's this little heat shield that protects the engine mount from the exhaust. Drop the mount in, line up the nipple, new nut. Okay, I need this rag. Give this little heat shield a spit shine. Get this grease and grime off it. This is far enough along in the video to tell you If y'all want to enter to win this car, there's an entry form in the description of the video. Check out the description. Make sure you're subscribed to Day Off DIY so you guys can support me in giving away more cars in the future, and fill out the Google form. That's it. I just need your information, cell phone number so I can contact you, and you need to answer a couple questions so I know that you actually watch the channel. That's it. I'm never gonna ask you guys for your money for these giveaway cars. I don't believe in that. If I ask you for your hard-earned money, it's not a giveaway. I'm not being of service and I'm not giving back. But all I ask of you guys is please just subscribe to the channel, like the video, watch some of my other videos, maybe send them to your car buddies if you think they'd enjoy this type of content too, because that's how I can make my living. And it doesn't cost anything to you guys, it's free. And so it's a way for me to give back to you guys through a free giveaway, and you guys can give back to me and help support me to continue doing this thing full time. That's all I ask, just for a little support, just to subscribe, maybe drop a like on the video, send it to some friends, repost it to your Reddit communities or car communities, and just try to push it out to some more people. And hopefully we can hit 100,000 subscribers this year, and I can finally accomplish my dream of getting that silver plaque from YouTube, because that is 100% my dream and what I want next, is that little silver plaque I can mount up in my garage. Okay, all right, I gotta put this bracket up for the trans lines next. That's next step. Okay. That's tight. I'd like to get this power steering pump back up. Let's try to work on that next. It's like we got a little bit of rain today, folks. And that's a wet puppy. That's a wet puppy. What's up, you little wet puppy? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I feel like if I can get this pump up and out of the way, it's gonna make the subframe go back up a little easier. But that sucker's really tangled up down there. Let me try from the bottom. There we go. Go in your home. Long one goes on driver's side. Now, I'm not gonna make the mistake of not putting up that little small 13 on the bottom of the pump. So I'm gonna go down underneath, make sure that's lined up, then I'll send all the hardware home. Can't get that little bolt to line up down there. Losing patience. Okay, let's try again. Holy cow, guys. That little 13 mil that goes from pump to oil filter housing, that thing kicked my ass. That little bracket just didn't want to line up, but I was able to persuade it with the pry bar. Snug these up real quick. Call the pump done. Let's get this belt on, get it out of the way. Belt's hanging off that power steering pump. That's why we check the ribs, folks. Why did I take a shower before I came out here? I'm filthy. I'm gonna go take a lunch break. I haven't eaten anything today yet, and it's like 2 o'clock. So I'm gonna go eat some food, then we're gonna come back out, get this subframe back up, and finish this sucker out. We gotta get this puppy cleaned up too. She's soaking wet. She is soaking wet. I'm dirty, and you're wet. We're back. I ate some lunch. Let's put this subframe back up. Now, one thing you can do to make the subframe going up a little bit easier is keep the engine mount nuts loose on the bottom. That way you can wiggle them so they can find their home in the bracket a little bit easier. But I think we'll be just fine. And of course, we have to make sure that our steering column shaft is lining up with the rack and pinion as we go up. So that's something we're gonna be looking for. So let's get it up there. This steering shaft will pull down. It's telescoping as well, so almost there. Let's see if we can floor jack this with our feet. Oh yeah, that's the tech right there. There we go, steering column's in. It's mostly just focusing on the engine mounts. If you get those, everything else should go up. But our floor jack is maxed out there. I think we can get started with the hardware and just suck it up into place. Forgot to put a block of wood, but I don't want to have to bring it all the way down. I think this will work. You can just suck the subframe back up with the hardware as long as our engine mounts are lined up. If the studs on your engine mounts aren't lined up, it'll fight you. That engine mount stud is good. This one's not lined up. There we go. I think it's gonna work. Okay, let's double check things. Steering column's in, engine mount. We got to go up with this side first because the other side engine mount is all bitching. This side is a touch off. I think it'll walk up there though. I'm going to try to walk this side up slow. Might have to just drop this and do it all over again. Looks good. The engine support bar is holding the engine mounts brackets a little high, so I think when I bring it down, it's going to fall into place. Yeah, it's going to fall into place. Engine mount looks good. Threads feel fine. All right, subframe bolts are tight, baby. Plug in this little sensor real quick. Yeah, nice. All right, now let's get that little E10 back into the steering shaft. Bring this oil level sensor connector, push that back into its clip. Yep, you're ready to go. Okay, that's in and tight. Let's get this floor jack out of here. Let's get these control arms put back up. I think we're gonna leave these control arms in these bushings because they feel just fine. They feel really good. Let's throw up these control arm bushings. Good and tight. Good and tight. Next, let's do this little bracket for the power steering hose. Then we're gonna reseal the drain plug and put the oil level sensor back in. Drain plug. Okay, new drain, well, old drain plug, new crush washer. Let's get this thing sealed up. Good and tight. Yes, this is why I keep old parts. I just found an oil level sensor O-ring up here. Brand new from FCP Euro. Let's go, put that thing on there. Hell yeah, I thought I'd have one lying around here. That's why I bought a 5-pack of the dipstick tube O-rings, because I like to keep extra on hand. Let's get this thing cleaned up, slap a new O-ring in it, and then I got a local dude coming by to buy my extra chicken coop. We're gonna go send that money out to my buddy Tyler and Ashley. They got a baby coming on the way, so now that their chickens are in my coop, I'm gonna sell their old coop and send them the money. Just sprayed out all that area with some brake cleaner. Want to get all that old oil sludge out from this O-ring crack. We don't want any old oil in there. Yes, stoked. So scratch that. Future winner does not have to do the oil level sensor O-ring. Let's go throw this thing in, then I gotta prep this chicken coop. I'm just gonna put 10 Newton meters on these. They're an M6 stud, just like the oil pan, so it should be fine. Yeah, we'll spray out that plug a little bit too. Boom! Hell yeah! I got enough time to get this sway bar back up here. Someone reached out to me the other day and said they snapped off one of these studs that the sway bar bushings mount to. So I should probably remind y'all to not hit them with too much torque, too much leverage when you're putting it back up, because these go into the unibody. If those snap, that's a pain in the ass. Sway bar link nuts. Tight. Let's get this engine support bar out of here. And the engine mount and trans mount kit comes with new hardware for bottom of the engine mounts and the top. So now we're gonna thread our new 16mm head nuts onto the top of the engine mounts. I'm gonna take a big long dong extension, get down there to the nuts on the motor mounts, run them down. All right, now I gotta sell this chicken coop and then I'll be back and we'll finish up oil filter, throw some oil in it, get this sucker running. Nah, we can do the oil filter while we wait. I don't want to sit around waiting for somebody for too long. Let's pick out the O-ring. Then what's interesting is my pack of parts came with this engine oil filter housing cover O-ring, and it comes with 2 of the green O-rings to seal down here. These are usually never replaced, but for some reason, one of the kits I ordered came with it. New O-ring, a little bit of oil. Nice little OE man filter. Okay, next step, I gotta sneak my arm down here and bolt the dipstick tube back to the engine mount bracket. Little 13mm head bolt. And now he's here to pick up the coop. BRB. All right, let's get back to work. Chicken coop is sold, $350 received. But now we gotta keep going. Gotta remember where I was. Oh, before I do that, I put the bolt back in for the dipstick tube, but I didn't snug it up. There we go. It's always dangerous when you get pulled off of jobs because you can forget where you were. You forget to tighten hardware. This fan backwards. Oh yeah, first try, baby. Let's go. I got like 30 minutes of work left and then I'm meeting a buddy of mine at the gym for a little evening workout. I think we can get this thing running by then. I also don't exactly want to take it on a road test while it's raining because the convertible top isn't sealing all the way. So I might road test it tomorrow and we'll finish up the video then. Not like it matters to you guys. It's gonna be edited down and show up right afterwards anyways. Push pin, fan clutch wrench, snug this up, air box. It's good, air box is lined up, looks good. There's so much more road noise from the highway when it's raining. It's crazy how much louder tires are when the road is wet. Okay. Hardware for the airbox, engine oil. Dude, we're practically done. There was a power steering hose that I wanted to replace that I totally forgot to do. So maybe we'll just throw that into next video. I think we'll do that. I also lied to you guys. I told you that we were doing transmission mounts this video, and my game plan was to do transmission mounts, but it doesn't really make sense while the subframe is down. In next video, I think I'm gonna rebuild the drive shaft with the new center support bearing, at least just a new flex disc. So while we're doing that, we'll drop the trans cross member and do the trans mounts. I'm also gonna service the automatic transmission. So that'll be next video. Will be trans service as well as trans mounts and refreshing the drive shaft a little bit. And then after that, we're gonna switch gears to interior and convertible top. We're putting in some Liqui-Moly 530 Special Tech. Now this will be a little over 7 quarts because this is liters, but because we did the oil pan and got all the oil out of the pan, having that little extra, maybe like half of a quart, it'll be just fine in there. Yeah, we'll just do the power steering hose next video. It's from rack to power steering cooler. Maybe I'll just do a short on it. I don't know. Oh, and one of the last pieces we have to install is this little engine oil cap sealing deal. How does this go on? I think it goes on like this. I feel like it would do some nice little vibration dampening right there. I like that. Let's run that. I don't think that's where it goes, but you guys can correct me in the comments. All right, let's fire this little piggy up, put the wheels and tires back on it. I gotta get ready to go to the gym. Okay, belt is on, fan clutch is in, fan shroud, subframe is up and tight, steering column's reconnected, drain plug's in, oil dipstick tube is in, oil level sensor is in, air box is reinstalled, sway bar's on, sway bar links are tight, high pressure power steering hose bracket is reinstalled, engine mount nuts are tight top and bottom, power steering pump is back on, all bolts installed. We're good. Ooh yeah, that is smooth. Oh yeah, she purring. I think this goes in here. Oh yeah, you fit nice in there. Yeah, that's where you go. A lot of vacuum in there from that O2 Pilot mod. Yeah, now that cover sits flat. That's better. Boy, she is purring like a kitten. Listen to this thing. She's running so smooth. This car's getting so dialed. Yeah, buddy. Lightweight, baby! I got all my clean covers from the engine degrease video and storing them in the trunk. If you guys missed that one, I just did a video on how to clean and degrease your engine, and I use this car to do it. If all goes well, these covers don't have to come off again. We do need to order a micro filter though. This car definitely needs a cabin air filter. Nice. All right, let's throw the wheels back on, then I'm going to the gym. Another question is, do we need to do brakes? No, the brakes look plenty healthy. We got to give you guys a little bit of work to do on this thing once you get it right. Nah, the brakes still got plenty of meat, so we're not going to do those. The faster we can do this one and the least amount that it needs, that means we'll be able to start on the next one even sooner. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I want to make these cars perfect because it's an example of my work ethic and how I like to operate and how I like to fix cars. But, you know, we can't do everything on this car, especially if it doesn't need it, right? Like the suspension. I was gonna replace all the suspension. It feels fantastic. Why replace it if I see no issues, no creaks, no clunks, and it's driving really nice? I might as well just leave it and someone else can work on it in the future. That means the winner gets their car even sooner. She's running really good. Yeah. Yeah. All right, gang, that's it for today. I'm gonna go pump some iron. I'll see you guys in the morning. We'll tidy this thing up, take it for a drive. Let's finish this sucker up and take her on a drive. First, before I put this thrust plate on, this reinforcement plate, better take you guys back here and show you the pan. Show you guys that I don't have any leaks. All right, let's take a look at the front. I've got some Curel T spilling out, but that's no problem. I'm actually quite happy with it. Right there behind the crank pulleys, nice and dry. Now this top driver's side doesn't really leak that often, so it's usually the passenger you really want to look at. This is just some leftover oil that dripped down while we had the pan off, so we'll do another pressure washing before we properly give this thing away. But check out that passenger side seam, looking really good. Bell housing's nice and dry. Other side's looking good. Oil level sensor's nice and dry. Drain plug's nice and dry. We got those fresh engine mounts up there. Passenger, driver. We are dialed in, folks. We are super dialed in. After the engine clean I did in that last video, this thing is looking really, really mint. So let's get the reinforcement plate on, then we can drive it. Now the book says that you're supposed to replace the hardware for these thrust plates. Do I do it? No. Have I ever replaced the hardware? Maybe one time on Jacob's free X-Drive oil pan video because the kit came with it. I always reuse the hardware. Also, you're technically not supposed to drive the car without this reinforcement plate. Have I driven cars without it? All the time. Has anything bad happened yet? No. But if you want to be extra cautious, maybe don't drive without the reinforcement plate installed. And if you want to be super cautious, you could replace the hardware too. FCP Euro sells it. Another thing we're gonna have to fix is all these fender wells because they're just so busted up. But once we get into the bodywork side of things, I'll probably end up ordering some new panels and we'll just try to pretty much rebuild this front end. But I just want to get it decent so these panels don't flop loose while we're driving down the highway. They're all busted up though and need replacing. That's better. That's totally way better. There we go. All right, that should add a little rigidity to these fender wells for test driving. Last piece of the puzzle, let's throw this little air intake piece in. Give the intake some cool air while we're road testing it. Or else it's just sucking all that hot engine compartment air, right? Throw these little push pins in there. I checked the oil level. Coolant, we didn't touch this video. Power steering, we didn't touch this video. Really, it was just all oil because we did the valve cover, then we did the oil pan, plugs, coils. We're good. Let's go. Let's fire this thing up. Let her get warm, take her off the lift. Let's go take her on a drive. Oh, that is just running so good. Like she just fires right up. It is just smooth as silk. Long live the M54. I can't believe one of these cylinders was actually down on compression. Like this thing is just so mint. We still got a lot of work to do, but this is gonna be such a good car for somebody. I think I already talked about it, but the giveaway form is now live, so check out the link in my description. Apply to win this car. If you do wanna win this car when I'm done with the restoration series, and when we're all done, we're gonna choose a winner. I'm gonna FaceTime you, tell you that you've won, and then I'm gonna come find you, and I'm gonna hand deliver it to you in person. Maybe we can go grab a beer or get some tacos or something. This car's so dang low, this lift always gets stuck. Let's go. Sage, let's go for a ride. Come on, load up. You can go back there. You can stay up front too. All right, you good there? Is that a good spot for you? We are still riding dirty. I need to get this thing smogged so I can, check engine light. That's crazy. The RPMs drop when I adjust my seat because it's just putting load on the battery. Let's see what this chicken light is for real quick. Wasn't expecting that. We never really tested if the AC works. I think the AC system does need a evac and recharge. Engine, give me some engine codes. Misfire cylinder number 5, that ain't true. Delete, no faults found. Yeah, she ain't got no misfire. She ain't got no misfire. Let's take this thing for a rip. We're gonna have to talk our way out of a ticket if we get pulled over, okay? We're gonna have to sweet talk them together, okay? We're heading out to a local country club that I played golf at about a week ago. I left my rangefinder over there, so left it attached to the golf cart, so I gotta go pick up my rangefinder. John, I'm sorry you might not get full view of Sage, but I wanna make sure we got a nice even picture here. Also, you guys said something about wearing my seatbelt correctly. I usually put it under my arm because I don't want it rubbing against the mic here for audio, but safety is more important than audio quality. You can just hear that expansion valve in the AC system just working hard, trying to make this AC cold. Well, the transmission shift's really smooth. I'm hesitant to service it, but we're still gonna do it because I don't want you guys to have to service the trans. I wanna make sure I touch all the fluids. Some fresh tires with some balancing will straighten out any sort of little wibble wobble we got. Hi, puppy. I forgot this car's got seat warmers. That is sick. I love seat warmers. So I had a thought the other day. Last year when I did the giveaway video, I felt like I needed to rush to get the car to the owner as fast as possible. This time, I really want to take my time. So let's say the winner's in Colorado or Idaho or Texas or Tennessee. Instead of just trying to get there as fast as possible and drop the car off, I think I'm gonna bring my golf clubs with me and really try to take my time throughout the entire trip, really enjoy myself, do some research, find some cool places to stay, and find some cool golf courses to play on my way out there. And then I can just fly home with my clothes and my golf gear. So then I don't feel like I have to rush and just, not enjoy the process. Because there's a lot of the United States that I really want to explore and see. And I feel like if I just try to go point A to point B and just drive 10 hours a day, it's not going to be nearly as fun. I might get there 1 or 2 days quicker, but I won't enjoy the process as much. So I'm actually starting to get a little bit excited about that process. It's gonna cost a lot of money, and I'm hoping maybe I can find a sponsor for the actual driving portion of the giveaway series, right? Because it's gonna be a lot of vlogging, putting down a lot of miles on this car. Hopefully everything goes well. I think with the due diligence we're putting in, things should go well, but I'm quite excited. I really have not explored much of the United States. I haven't done barely any international travel, so I'm really excited to potentially see the next frontier of where I might buy my next house, where I want to invest in property and expand the business, expand the shop, etc. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to bring my golf clubs. She's driving so good though. One great benefit to replacing engine mounts is over time those engine mounts start to sag down and you'll be sitting at idle and you'll feel quite a heavy engine vibration transferring into the chassis and the body of the car. So if you're ever sitting at a stoplight and it just feels like it's just, you know, you can feel a lot of vibration in the steering wheel, the floor, the body, the doors, chances are your engine mounts are probably sagged out. So you refresh those, it is another just great quality of life improvement. It just really refreshes your car and makes it feel new again. You know, it's just those little things. Then you add all of those little things up and you can take a car that just is clunky and heavy vibration and doesn't drive that well and you can turn it into a brand new car again. It's just going through and doing the little things systematically, methodically, one by one, and staying on top of the maintenance. I got a solution for this as well. This center console that is completely snapped. I can't even open it. There we go. So stay tuned. We're gonna do a little in-betweener video on freshen up some of this interior stuff. Hopefully they still have my rangefinder and nobody stole it. Let's see. You just stay here, okay? I'll be right back. We got it back. Sage, you are too close to read. You're too close to my heart. All right, let's go home and eat some lunch. 24.2 miles per gallon for the drive home from the golf course to the house. That's pretty dang good fuel economy. That's pretty dang good. Come on, puppy, you're free. Whoop-ew. That's a wrap for this one, folks. The E46 giveaway car is officially oil leak free. We did the valve cover gasket, ignition coil, spark plugs, oil pan gasket, engine mounts, and a fresh oil service. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. That's going to be the #1 requirement to win the giveaway car. Also, check out the giveaway form. It is now live and it is linked in the description of the video. If you'd like to support me on this dream of trying to restore BMWs and give them away to my subscribers for free, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe you know someone that needs a reliable piece of transportation, send them a link to the video. Have them fill out the giveaway form. Maybe they will be the one to win the car. A big thank you to FCP Euro for sponsoring yet again another video of this giveaway series. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something new. And as always, folks, I will see you on my next day off. Cheers.